September 2019 in Rexburg, Idaho, a sleepy little town where nothing much happens. The kind of place where kids ride bikes down quiet streets and neighbors wave from their porches. But something's off. Two kids, 16-year-old Tylee Ryan and her 7-year-old brother, Joshua JJ Vallow, haven't been seen in weeks. Their mom, Lori Vallow, is acting strange, dodging questions, spinning lies. She tells people JJ's in Arizona with a friend, but nobody's seen him. Tylee? Nobody even knows where to start. The air feels heavy, like a storm's brewing, and it's not just the kids who vanished. There's a trail of bodies piling up, and it's about to get ugly. Fast forward to June 2020. A team of investigators is digging in the backyard of property owned by Lori's new husband, Chad Daybell. The sun's beating down, but the mood is ice cold. They uncover something that stops their hearts. A small blackened bundle wrapped in plastic bags, buried under a tree. It's JJ, his tiny body bound with duct tape, his face unrecognizable. Not far away, they find a fire pit, and in it, the charred remains of Tylee, her body so badly burned it's barely identifiable. The smell of decay lingers, mixing with the dirt and despair. This isn't an accident. This is murder, calculated, cruel, and cloaked in a bizarre web of religious fanaticism. But it doesn't stop there. Rewind to October 2019. Tammy Daybell, Chad's first wife, is found dead in her bed, her face pale, her body cold. Everyone thinks it's natural causes. She was only 49, but these things happen, right? Wrong. When her body's exhumed, the truth claws its way out. Tammy was asphyxiated, her life snuffed out to clear the path for Lori and Chad's twisted love story. And there's more. Lori's fourth husband, Charles Vallow, shot dead by her brother Alex Cox in July 2019. A supposed self-defense shooting that reeks of conspiracy. Even Lori's niece's ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux, narrowly escapes an assassination attempt, bullets flying past his car in broad daylight. This is no ordinary crime spree. It's a saga of death, driven by a woman who believed she was a goddess, chosen by Jesus to prepare for the end of the world. Lori Vallow Daybell, with her bleach blonde hair and pageant queen smile, wasn't just a mom. She was a monster, weaving a cult-like fantasy where her own kids were labeled zombies and murder was a divine command. The body count is staggering. 2 children, a rival wife, a husband, and an attempted hit on another. The question isn't just who she killed. It's why. How does a mother turn on her own flesh and blood? How does love morph into a death pact? Let's peel back the layers and step into the abyss. Let's start with the crimes, because at the heart of this horror show, and they hit like a punch to the gut. The first domino falls on July 11, 2019, in Chandler, Arizona. Charles Vallow, Lori's fourth husband, shows up at her house to pick up JJ for school. Charles is worried. His marriage is crumbling. Lori's acting erratic, talking about being a translated being who's lived multiple lives. He's there to get his son, but what he gets is a bullet. Lori's brother, Alex Cox, pulls the trigger, shooting Charles twice, once in the chest, once in the abdomen. Charles collapses, blood pooling on the floor, while Lori and her daughter Tylee stand nearby. Alex claims self-defense, saying Charles attacked him with a baseball bat. But the scene feels staged. The bat's on the wrong side of Charles's left-handed body, and Alex waits 47 minutes before calling 911. Charles lies dead, his life draining away, while Lori's already texting Chad about the insurance policy she thought she'd cash in on. Spoiler: Charles had changed the beneficiary, leaving her nothing. Fast forward to September 2019. Tylee and JJ vanish. Lori's living in Rexburg, Idaho, now, cozying up with Chad Daybell, a self-published author of Doomsday novels. Nobody's seen the kids, and Lori's got a million excuses. JJ's with his grandparents. Tylee's off at college. But the truth is far darker. On September 8th or 9th, Tylee's killed, likely by Alex Cox, though the details are murky. Her body is burned in a fire pit on Chad's property, reduced to ash and bone fragments. The process is gruesome. Investigators later describe finding her remains scattered, her skull shattered, her flesh incinerated. It's a scene straight out of a horror movie, the kind that makes your stomach churn. JJ's death comes weeks later, between September 22nd and 23rd. He's found wrapped in black plastic bags, duct tape binding his arms and legs, his small frame tucked under a tree in Chad's backyard. Autopsy reports suggest he was suffocated, possibly with a plastic bag over his head, his last moments filled with terror. JJ, a 7-year-old with special needs who loved to read and hug his grandparents, was betrayed by the one person meant to protect him, his mother. The image of his tiny body, discarded like trash, is haunting, a stark reminder of the evil at play. Then there's Tammy Daybell. On October 19, 2019, Chad calls 911, claiming his wife died in her sleep. She'd been coughing, he says, and just didn't wake up. The coroner rules it natural causes, no autopsy needed. But Tammy's family smells a rat. Her death's too convenient, coming just weeks before Chad marries Lori in a beachside ceremony in Hawaii. In December 2019, Tammy's body is exhumed, and the autopsy reveals the truth. She was asphyxiated, likely smothered, her death a deliberate act to free Chad for his new life with Lori. The betrayal is sickening. Tammy, a devoted mom of 5, was an obstacle in their apocalyptic fairy tale. And let's not forget Brandon Boudreaux, Lori's niece's ex-husband. On October 2nd, 2019, he's driving near his home in Gilbert, Arizona, when a bullet shatters his car window, missing him by inches. Brandon's certain is tied to Lori and Chad, who saw him as a threat after he started asking questions about the kids. Police later linked the gun to Alex Cox, Lori's loyal enforcer, who's now tied to multiple deaths. These weren't impulsive acts. Each killing was planned, justified by Lori and Chad's bizarre beliefs in zombies and dark spirits. They rated people as light or dark, claiming evil spirits possess their victims, making murder a holy act. Texts between Lori and Chad, uncovered by the FBI, are chilling. They call Tylee and JJ obstacles, discuss demons inhabiting their bodies, and even pray for God to take them. It's a cult mentality, a warped theology where love, family, and humanity are sacrificed for a delusional prophecy. The body count, 3 confirmed dead, 1 attempted murder, paints a picture of a woman who'd stop at nothing to get what she wanted: money, power, sex, and a ticket to the end times. So, who the hell is Lori Vallow Daybell? How does a cheerleader turned mom end up orchestrating a killing spree? Let's rewind and trace her path from small-town girl to doomsday cult leader. Born Lori Noreen Cox on June 26, 1973, in San Bernardino, California, Lori grew up in a Mormon family, the oldest of 5 kids. Her parents, Barry and Janice Cox, were devout members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, raising their kids in a strict religious household. Lori was a golden child, pretty, charismatic, a cheerleader with big dreams. She loved the spotlight, always smiling, always performing, but there were cracks early on. Her brother, Alex Cox, born in 1968, was her protector, a hulking figure who'd later become her muscle in the murders. Another brother, Adam, described their childhood as normal but noted Lori's growing obsession with religion as she got older. At 19, Lori married her high school sweetheart, Nelson Yanes, in 1992, but the marriage fizzled fast, ending in divorce within a year. In 1995, she married William LaJoya, and they had a son, Colby Ryan, in 1996. That marriage tanked too, with Lori accusing William of being abusive, though friends say she exaggerated to paint herself the victim. By 2001, she was on to husband number 3, Joseph Ryan, Tylee's dad. They had Tylee in 2002, but the marriage soured, with Joseph alleging Lori was unfaithful. He died of a heart attack in 2018, leaving Tylee's Social Security benefits Lori later stole. In 2006, Lori married Charles Vallow, a successful businessman who adopted JJ, the grandson of his sister Kay Woodcock, in 2014. Charles and Lori seem happy, raising Tylee and JJ in a blended family. Friends describe Lori as a devoted mom, always at school events, always doting on her kids. But beneath the surface, something was shifting. Around 2015, Lori started diving into fringe religious texts, especially books by Chad Daybell, a Mormon author who wrote about near-death experiences and the apocalypse. Chad's novels, like The Great Gathering, painted a world where chosen ones would survive the end times. Lori ate it up, believing she was one of those chosen, a goddess with divine mission. By 2018, Lori's marriage to Charles was crumbling. She'd met Chad at a religious conference, and their affair ignited a firestorm. Chad, a married father of 5, claimed to have visions, saying he and Lori were sealed in a past life. Lori started calling herself Elena, Chad James, adopting personas as religious warriors. She told Charles she was a translated being, above mortal laws, and threatened to kill him if he got in her way. Charles, desperate, filed for divorce in February 2019, telling police Lori had threatened his life. He even sought a mental health evaluation. But Lori was too slippery, charming her way out of scrutiny. After Charles's death in July 2019, Lori moved to Rexburg, closer to Chad. She joined his inner circle, a group called Preparing a People, which mixed Mormon theology with doomsday prepper vibes. Lori's beliefs grew darker. She claimed she'd had a near-death experience in 2002, giving her access to the spirit world. She and Chad developed a system to rate people, labeling anyone who opposed them as dark or zombies. Tylee, JJ, Tammy, even Charles, they all became obstacles, threats to Lori and Chad's vision of a new world order. With Alex Cox as her enforcer, Lori was ready to eliminate anyone in her path. Lori Vallow Daybell isn't your typical murderer, and that's what makes her so terrifying. She didn't kill for thrill or revenge. She killed for destiny. Her psyche is a tangle of narcissism, delusion, and religious mania, a perfect storm that turned a suburban mom into a cult leader. Let's break it down. Psychologically, Lori exhibits traits of narcissistic personality disorder. She craved attention, always needing to be the star, whether as a cheerleader, a beauty queen, or a self-proclaimed prophetess. Her son, Colby, testified that she was a loving mom until she met Chad, when her ego ballooned. She saw herself as a divine figure, above human laws, chosen to lead 144,000 survivors into the second coming. This grandiose self-image let her justify anything, murder, theft, lies, as part of her sacred mission. In her 2023 sentencing, she showed no remorse, claiming Jesus knows me, and insisting her victims were happy in the afterlife. It's chilling, a woman so detached from reality she could smile while her kids' bodies rotted in the ground. Her religious beliefs were the fuel. Lori's Mormon upbringing gave her a foundation, but Chad's teachings twisted it into something apocalyptic. He claimed near-death experiences let him see the spirit world, identifying dark souls who needed to be released. Lori bought in hook, line, and sinker, believing she could commune with angels and Jesus. Texts between her and Chad reveal a shared delusion. They called Tylee a zombie, prayed for JJ to be taken, and saw Tammy as an obstacle to their eternal union. This wasn't just faith. It was a cult, with Lori and Chad as its gods, Alex as their executioner, and their victims as sacrifices. But there's a darker layer, greed and lust. Prosecutors argued Lori was driven by money, power, and sex. She wanted Charles's $1 million life insurance, Tylee and JJ's Social Security benefits, and a life with Chad free of baggage. Her affair with Chad was obsessive. She sent him romantic texts, calling him her eternal love, while plotting to remove anyone in their way. This mix of spiritual delusion and earthly desire made her unstoppable. She wasn't just a believer. She was a manipulator, using religion to control Alex and others, convincing them murder was God's will. Lori's lack of empathy is stark. At her trial, she showed no emotion as graphic images of her kids' bodies were displayed. Her son, Colby, confronted her in a jailhouse call, begging for answers, but she deflected, claiming divine insight. Even her 2025 Dateline interview was defiant. She expressed no remorse, saying she'd be exonerated and joking about dancing with the stars. It's the mark of a sociopath, someone who feels nothing for the lives she destroyed. Her relationship with Alex Cox is key. Alex was her loyal soldier, a man with a violent past who saw himself as her protector. Lori fed his devotion, giving him religious authority to kill, like when she told him Charles was possessed by a spirit called Ned. Alex's texts show he was all in, discussing demons and plans to take the kids. His death in December 2019 from a pulmonary embolism spared him charges, but his role as Lori's muscle is undeniable. She used him, just as she used Chad's visions and her own charisma, to build a death machine. Let's get into mechanics of Lori's crimes, because the details are as horrifying as they are meticulous. Each murder was a step in a larger plan, orchestrated with cold precision and cloaked in religious rhetoric. Here's how it went down. Target selection. Lori and Chad didn't pick victims randomly. They chose people who stood in the way of their goals. Charles Vallow was first, a husband who threatened to expose Lori's affair and beliefs. Tylee and JJ were next, labeled zombies, because they tied Lori to her old life and brought in Social Security checks she wanted to keep. Tammy Daybell was an obstacle to Lori and Chad's marriage, her life insurance a bonus. Brandon Boudreaux, Lori's niece's ex, was targeted for asking too many questions. Each victim was dehumanized, called dark or possessed, making their deaths a twisted act of salvation. Method of killing. Charles Vallow, shot by Alex Cox in Lori's Chandler home. The setup was staged. Charles was lured under the pretense of picking up JJ. Alex claimed Charles attacked with bat, but evidence suggests otherwise. No defensive wounds on Alex, and the bat was misplaced. Charles was shot twice, left to bleed out for nearly an hour before police were called. Tylee Ryan, likely killed by Alex, possibly with Lori's help. Her body was burned in a fire pit on Chad's property, a brutal process that left only fragments. The fire was intense, requiring hours to reduce her body to ash, suggesting premeditation and effort to destroy evidence. JJ Vallow, suffocated, possibly with plastic bag, and bound with duct tape. His body was buried under a tree, wrapped in plastic to conceal it. The use of duct tape and the shallow grave show a rushed but deliberate cover-up. Tammy Daybell, asphyxiated, likely smothered in her sleep. No drugs or external injuries were found, pointing to a pillow or hands over her face. The lack of an initial autopsy let Chad pass it off as natural causes until the exhumation. Brandon Boudreaux shot it while driving. The gun was linked to Alex, and the attack was planned to silence Brandon's suspicions about the kid's disappearance. Execution and cover-up. Lori was a mastermind, Chad the ideologue, Alex the muscle. They used texts and calls to coordinate, with Lori texting Alex to stay close before Charles's death and discussing plans for the kids. After each killing, they lied, claiming Charles attacked Alex, saying the kids were with friends, telling police Tammy died naturally. Lori kept collecting Social Security checks for Tylee and JJ, stealing thousands while their bodies decomposed. When police closed in, Lori and Chad fled to Hawaii, living up on a beach while investigators dug up their secrets. The religious angle was their shield. Lori and Chad told followers they were fighting a cosmic battle, casting their victims as demons. They used preparing of people conferences to recruit believers, spinning tales of end times glory. Even after the kids vanished, Lori lied to police, saying JJ was in Arizona, buying time to escape. Their arrogance was staggering. They thought they were untouchable, chosen by God to outsmart the law. The case broke open in November 2019 when JJ's grandparents, Kay and Larry Woodcock, reported him missing. Kay hadn't spoken to JJ since August, a brief call cut short by Lori when police visited Lori's Rexburg apartment. She claimed JJ was with friend Melanie Gibb in Arizona. Gibb, a follower of Lori and Chad, later admitted Lori asked her to lie. That's when the dominoes started falling. Police tracked Lori and Chad to Hawaii, arresting Lori in February 2020 for desertion and obstruction. The real bombshell came in June 2020, when JJ and Tylee's remains were found on Chad's property. The discovery was gruesome. Detectives described the smell, the blackened plastic, the charred bones. Chad was arrested that day, caught speeding away from the scene. The FBI's analysis of Lori's iCloud revealed damning texts, romantic exchanges with Chad, discussions of dark spirits, and plans to remove obstacles. Alex Cox's phone data tied him to the crime scenes, and witness testimony from Gibb and others painted a picture of a cult-like conspiracy. The investigation uncovered a web of lies. Lori had told police Charles died of a heart attack, not a shooting. She claimed Tammy's death was natural, despite the asphyxiation. She even lied about her kids' whereabouts, all while cashing their Social Security checks. The case grew, linking Lori and Chad to Tammy's murder and Brandon's attempted hit. By May 2021, they were indicted on 9 counts, including murder, conspiracy, and grand theft. The public was hooked, dubbing Lori the Doomsday Mom for her apocalyptic beliefs. Lori's trial began April 10th, 2023, in Boise, Idaho. The courtroom was packed, the nation glued to Court TV's audio feed. Prosecutors Rob Wood and Lindsay Blake laid out a case built on text, phone data, and witness accounts. They showed graphic images of JJ and Tylee's remains, leaving jurors in tears. Colby Ryan testified against his mom, sobbing as he described Tylee's photo. "That's my sister." Melanie Gibb recounted Lori's zombie talk, and Detective Ray Hermosillo detailed the grim excavation of the kids' bodies. The prosecution's argument was clear. Lori, driven by greed, lust, and delusion, conspired with Chad and Alex to kill for profit and power. Lori's defense, led by Jim Archibald, leaned on her beliefs. He argued she didn't physically kill anyone, pinning the murders on Alex and Chad. "No one here thinks Lori actually killed anyone," he told the jury, framing her as a misguided believer, not a murderer. But the evidence was overwhelming. 15,000 texts, none showing Lori planning the killings directly, but plenty proving her role in a conspiracy. On May 12, 2023, after 7 hours of deliberation, the jury found Lori guilty on all counts. 2 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of conspiracy, and grand theft for stealing Social Security funds. The sentencing on July 31st, 2023, was gut-wrenching. Victim impact statements tore through the courtroom. Kay Woodcock called Lori a monster, saying she had paid the $1 million insurance to save the kids. Colby Ryan's statement mourned Tylee and JJ's stolen futures. Tammy's sister, Samantha Gwilliam, vowed to forget Lori forever. Lori's response? A bizarre 8-minute speech claiming she'd spoken to Jesus, Tylee, and JJ in the spirit world, insisting no one was murdered. Judge Stephen Boyce wasn't buying it, slamming her for choosing the most evil and destructive path possible. He handed down 3 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus 10 years for grand theft and over $50, 000 in fines and restitution. Chad's trial followed in 2024, ended with a guilty verdict on May 30th and a death sentence on June 1st. He, too, was convicted of murdering Tylee, JJ, and Tammy, plus insurance fraud and grand theft. Lori faced another trial in Arizona, starting April 7th, 2025, for conspiring to kill Charles Vallow. Representing herself, She claimed self-defense, but prosecutors painted it as a calculated hit for insurance money. A second Arizona trial for Brandon Boudreaux's attempted murder is ongoing, with Lori pleading not guilty. As of April 18, 2025, Lori's rotting in the Pocatello Women's Correctional Center in Idaho, serving 3 life sentences with no chance of parole. She's been extradited to Arizona for her ongoing trials, held in Maricopa County Jail. At 51, she's defiant, telling Dateline she feels great acting as her own attorney and predicting exoneration. Her appeal in the Idaho case is pending, but the evidence is ironclad: texts, bodies, witnesses, all pointing to her guilt. Chad's on death row, awaiting execution by lethal injection or firing squad, a grim end to their apocalyptic dream. The fallout is devastating. Colby Ryan lost his siblings, his mother, and his trusted family. Kay and Larry Woodcock grieved JJ, their little man, and Tylee, their beautiful niece. Tammy's 5 kids lost their mom, their dad, and their sense of normalcy. The Mormon community in Rexburg is scarred, grappling with how 2 of their own turned faith into a death cult. Lori's legacy is a warning. Unchecked delusion, fueled by charisma and greed, can destroy everything in its path. Lori Vallow Daybell's story is a nightmare that lingers. It's not just a body count. 3 dead, 1 nearly so. It's a betrayal. A mother who killed her own kids, a wife who conspired against her husband, a woman who twisted faith into a weapon. The case has spawned books, a Lifetime movie, and a Netflix series, each trying to unravel the why. Her trials, live-streamed and dissected, gripped the nation, a morbid fascination with a woman who seemed so normal yet was so monstrous. The Doomsday Mom changed how we see faith, family, and evil. She showed us that monsters don't always lurk in shadows. They can smile in church pews, hug their kids, and still plot their deaths. As I wrap this up, I can't shake the image of JJ's tiny body, duct-taped and buried, or Tylee's ashes scattered in a fire pit. It's a horror that clings to you, a reminder that the darkest hearts can hide behind the brightest smiles. And that, my friend, is what makes Lori Vallow Daybell the stuff of nightmares.